have some bad news, Elaine.
It appears you will not be accompanying me to Africa.
Why not?
I'm afraid it's your urine, Elaine. You've tested positive for opium.
Opium?
That's right, Elaine. White Lotus. Yum, yum. Shanghai Sally.
You're addicted to opium. Shanghai Sally. Yum, yum. The Dark Continent is no place for an addict, Elaine. My neck is one gargantuan monkey fist. Very simply, J. Peterman was a legend in his own mind. He was kind of the corporate Mr. Magoo. He always just saw things a little differently than everybody else. But he had that wonderful sense of kind of a comedic Irish poet on the cliffs, and he always had if he had a rambling way to say something, he would say it.
I was traveling the Yangtze in search of a Mongolian horsehair vest. I got to the market after sundown. All of the clothing traders had gone.
If he wanted to take off in a poetic monologue at any one moment, he would.
Kudos, Elaine, on a job.
On a job.
Done.
It's funny. I have many people that ask me if I will say that to them or to their friend who is now retiring from their job or whatever. I have a buddy the other day who just retired, and of course, what did I send him? Congratulations, Dante, on a job. Done.
Then, in the distance, I heard the bulls. And I began running as fast as I could. Fortunately, I was wearing my Italian Capto Oxfords.
The sad and freaky thing is J. Peterman came naturally to me. I didn't have to do any work. He just came. I actually I have to go back and say that back in the 70s, the late 70s, I had a boss that I was actually in public relations at the time. And I had a boss who had a lot of J. Peterman's qualities to him. So that sense of that, the kind of the raving lunatic. So I think I took borrowed a little bit of him for one of the arrows in my quiver, if you will.
How do you know all that?
That's my coat.
You mean?
Yes. I'm J. Peterman. I was a little nervous because this whole character was a little bizarre to me. I mean, I had looked through the catalog, but I had, this whole. But I just tried to say, this is what they've given me, and they brought me here to tear up the scenery, so that's what I tried to do. And even as I look at that first scene, I realized that Peterman was still a little bit more of a romantic leading man back then. He hadn't really embraced his inner lunacy. And I think as they brought the character back more and more, he became the lunatic that he really was.
Damn, I forgot to buy plant food again. I bet I got a coupon for it.
Well, one of the most enjoyable experiences was not only watching Julia's professionalism, because I think she is one of the great television comedians of all time. One of the most courageous actresses. She would always go down with the ship for the laugh. No matter what it was, she would embarrass herself, a la Elaine's famous dance. But whatever it was, she would find the laugh in the scene. And one of the smartest actors I've worked with, and certainly one of the most enjoyable people I know. Absolutely the funniest moment of J. Peterman was a monologue that was actually cut from one of the shows. And it was in the Friars Club episode when Rob Schneider was playing my hard of hearing assistant.
I want you so bad, Bob. You turn me on so much. So damn sexy. Oh.
And I thought that he and Elaine were having a little tete-a-tete on office time, and so I tried to play Cupid.
Mr. Peterman, you...
There's no need to deny it, Elaine. I heard every word you said.
And I walk into her office late in the afternoon, and I tell her that she and Bob can knock off a little early to get ready for the Karamazov Brothers Circus. And I slap down 2 tickets on the desk, and she looks at me as though I've just grown another head. And she says, Bob, and this was the monologue that was cut. I said, Elaine, don't worry, I too am no stranger to love on the clock. As a young lad, my father apprenticed me to a honey factory in Belize. The chief beekeeper was this horrible hag of a woman with gnarled teeth and a giant wart that she called a nose. Ooh, she was not attractive, even by backwoods standards. But love is truly blind, Elaine, and as the days went on, working closer and closer together, that sweet smell of honey in the air, I knew I had to have that horrible creature. And I did, so you and Bob have a good time tonight. Cut from the show. Gone. Bing! But they did put it back in the compendium of Seinfeld episodes now, so you can still see that. Well, you know, my favorite moments really were the things that I was privy to that nobody else was. The Seinfeld set, or the J. Peterman set was, believe it or not, actually that was my dressing room. I never used my dressing room. I always used the J. Peterman set as my, if you went through all of the drawers, that was all my stuff in there. Everywhere. That's where I camped, and that's where I stayed the entire time because I was so comfortable there. It was such a beautiful, inviting, interesting design of an office. But the things that I was privy to, because it was right next door to the apartment set, I would watch Michael Richards practice his skid stops every time he came into the office, or every time he came onto the set. He would have a different move, and it was never the same. And he always practiced those like Baryshnikov, and it was like, you know, it was just fascinating to watch him because he is one of the great physical comedians. I mean, you have to go back to Dick Van Dyke, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin to find people that had that kind of genius in them in physical comedy. Seinfeld was about trying to fit 12 people in an elevator that fit 10. It was about the compression of trying to be a young person living in New York. And it was four incredibly self-involved people trying to make their way in the world and not apologizing for being just normal, self-centered people. And I think that was the kind of you kind of identify with all of the minutiae that every episode tried to pick apart. And the jokes, and this is what was very interesting about Seinfeld, it's not a joke show, where most sitcoms are, you know, you set the joke, set the joke, set up the joke, set up the joke, deliver the punchline. Set the joke up, deliver the punchline. Seinfeld was not like that. The lines weren't funny. And if you go back and read a Seinfeld script, you're going to go, how is this funny? It wasn't funny. What you did was you performed it. You performed the scenes honestly and with the integrity and intensity that they were written. And then the scene is funny when you put the scenes all together. But it had to be played honestly. It had to be played like a drama. And there was no setup jokes in there at all. So it was a different style of comedy.